Życzymy Państwu przyjemnej podróży.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the discussion about digital media, algorithm, AI, and democracy. It's an interesting topic. We have a fantastic panelists, Katarzyna Szymielewicz from Panoptykon organization, Bartosz, Hojka, Management Board of Agora, Warner Bros. Discovery in Poland, Sawicki and Michał, Kanownik from Digital Association Poland. My name is Maciej, Kuziemski. And today I'm a concerned citizen, and a few words from me. Digital media, algorithm, AI, and democracy. We are facing the times of a lot of crisis, a lot of things change. Also media, this is a transformation of media. Transition is never beautiful. It is always about negotiations, and there are sometimes disproportionate forces between digital corporations and regular citizens, and the hostage of the uncertainty of the future. So what it is going to look like in the future after we negotiate new rules and new conditions, it is related to the fact whether we know what facts are. So media outlets are a topic of our discussion, among other things. I'm going to ask a question, and you might know what my answer would be. AI and algorithms, are they our allies, friends, or are they our foes, enemies? NGOs, civic society use a lot of digital tools and social media, and on the other hand, in 2024, we are fully aware of the negative consequences, social consequences as a result of that. Katarzyna, AI, is it a friend or a foe? First of all, it's not a hammer. It's not a tool like a hammer. This is an acting agent. And today, AI is programmed by high-tech companies, big tech. It is about profits, and profits are growing year on year. So 20% per year due to advertisement commercials. These profits are growing because, in accordance with the logic of supervisory capitalism, they use our data, and this business model has side effects, social consequences, externalities. So this generates something negative on the outside, and it's not the same Excel file, spreadsheet, that the tool which is used to gain profit, it doesn't end there. Of course, capitalism has its rules. These are not my favorite rules, but we have to say enough that for the profit of a few corporations, we, society, citizens, decide to clean of the side effects, externalities, because it's also costly, not only costly in terms of money, because mental crisis, for example, need treatment, but also we stop talking to each other, we do not listen to each other, because this is chaos. So AI is having a detrimental effect. It's not a service. Social media as a forum where public debate could take place, but it doesn't take place. So it's not a service. Even big tech knows that. There are a number of books in English basically about this business model. And this is not a service, it is the tool of exploiting attention. It is a huge experiment on the mental state of people. So it is not a service, it's a tool. But I would like to dwell on it answering your next questions. Bartosz, Hojka. Katarzyna, thank you for some ideas that you are optimistic about certain solutions for the future. The question is whether there are more risks or opportunities. There are opportunities and chances, and the media sector, media industry is such an industry where AI generates a lot of risks, not like in medicine where AI is rather advantageous and creates more chances, more opportunities. In the media, there is certain optimism. Everyone agrees with each other that artificial intelligence will offer us editorial tools which will outsources to AI all the unnecessarily works like editing, for example, proofreading. We all know that something journalists don't want to deal with, like proofreading, and focus on what is most important in the work of the journalism, investigative journalism, and good journalism in general. Maybe AI will be used in this way, and this is how editorial boards use AI at the moment. But when I wake up at night, it strikes me that the problems we are facing today, manipulation, disinformation, fake news, deep fake, will be here with us, and they will be multiplied by AI. And these tools will result in the fact that problems that we are facing today will be even more serious. It will be even more difficult to solve them, to offer objective, reliable information. It is also important to have a chance in this communication market, the market of fighting for attention. How can we compete with big tech in the world where AI is developing so dynamically so that competition is on an equal ground? From the point of view of media industry, we are interested in the fact that journalists and editors should receive good remuneration for their top quality work, whereas AI tools are trained based on what journalists do. Grzegorz Kajdanowicz says at 7 p.m. these are facts on TV, so I agree with you guys. But, well, friends or foes, I don't like these notions, and we have to tame AI to a certain extent. We can notice all these challenges and problems, and I have this feeling that in our industry, and it's not the fact that in medicine AI is only a positive thing, because sometimes there is access to our medical data, and insurance companies are misusing AI in this way. But what is important from our point of view, regulations do not catch up with reality. So we have to improve regulations, and they shall be faster. Mayor Ress 2 years ago in New York said at the conference, like food industry, and those who poison us are forced to limit emissions and negative effects of the components, ingredients of food. We will do the same so that our kids are not poisoned by fake news. So we do have the awareness, and our audience, our readers are more aware of fakes. Young generation, which is more efficient in fact-checking and looking for real news. On the other hand, there are some algorithms that become addictive to young people, but awareness is better than it was in the past. We react to fake news, like in foodstuffs, we have the ingredients on the labels. In the case of news, we also have to do fact-checking, and there are reliable data sources, and we have this on the label. Everyone has to know who is the creator of this piece of news, what is the source of news, and we have to regulate it, although technology will always surprise us. And the biggest challenge, how to use this technology to develop new regulations. You can actually take advantage of AI and be more proactive using it so that our legislation and legislative work is more efficient and faster. So I would encourage that. I would like to say that there is an internal confrontation towards using the natural science words surfing, cloud, taming, this technology. It's not the natural disaster. Michał, Kanownik. Okay. So I would like to refer to the fact about faster, more efficient legislative work. Can we make it can we make it faster, really? So I disagree with it. We should have good regulations, so quality is better than the number of these regulations. With Katarzyna, we often take part in these discussions and disputes, and here I agree with Katarzyna 100% with the first sentence that it's not a hammer. So it is important who carries this hammer and not the hammer itself, and how you use this hammer. This is the key to the problem. We don't have AI, we have algorithms, complex, more complex, less complex, but it's not real AI. But it is important that we are discussing it already, and we are ready for that. It is a technology that elicits a lot of emotions. Any technological revolution causes fears, causes emotions. We can look into the future. In the 19th century, newspapers wrote about wastewater sewages, that it is dangerous. And we are happy that there are sewages in every village now. Nuclear technologies, you can create a nuclear bomb, but you can use it in a positive way, starting with a nuclear power plant to medicine. The same goes for AI. It depends on the way we use it. So the answer to the question is that we shall be ready to consume this tool in a proper way, so that it is good for all of us. To improve our life and to minimize negative drawbacks. I'm not saying that AI is only pink and nice colors. There are shadows to it, gray color, black. It all depends on the fact in what way we as individuals are going to use this technology. So we have to teach people how to efficiently, safely, in a proper way use this technology, how to raise awareness, so they were aware of these threats and risks and could navigate in this technological sphere. For example, when we discuss democracy, there will be even more dilemmas and difficult questions. And there are a lot of doubts, of course, but in general, it's a huge chance. And it is up to us how to use this chance.
Well, I'm glad we'll not be praising one another. Well, I cannot disagree more. I will tell you more. This simplification is actually detrimental to our debate, because historically, any revolution that happened had no autonomous element. It was us to press who are pressing the button. It was us who took the decision. So this was very imprecise definition of what technology can become, and this also comes from a recent Nobel Prize winner, for the AI Nobel Prize winner. He said that the time we lose control is quite imminent. So we need to apply other measures and other approaches. Well, I need to react to that. I cannot disagree more with the fact that it's a threat. But the Nobel Prize example that you gave is a good one. Actually, Nobel himself founded this award because he was terrified of his invention. So you see, AI creators will fund their own award. Well, the dynamite will not explode by itself. You need to trigger it manually. AI has potential which was never there before. Well, I would like to refer to the first sentence uttered by Michał, and I would like to paraphrase. If a representative of the Ministry of Digitalization says it was too high, the risk was too high, I'm terrified now. Well, we are not a government agency. I know the digital business, and I know it's over-regulated in Europe. And there are more than 200 different regulators all over the EU. It's a horrendous number. And I agree. I don't believe a regulation is redundant or should be eliminated. No, it's necessary, but it needs to be wise and good. Today, Europe is trying to come up with unlimited numbers of regulations, but, well, I cannot disagree with the fact that they should be wise and good, but they also had to be quick. And I would be very obliged to the Ministry of Digitalization. I would like to advise you on the pace of introducing solutions. For 2 years now, we, the publishers, have been facing a situation in which AI mechanisms actually scrap our data, and they use our data. And, for example, the content that is developed by Agora's editors are accessed 150,000 times every day for 2 years now. And the regulations are not even shadowing on the horizon. So the regulation concerning copyrights of publishers the act was introduced with a huge delay, and we were the last country in the European Union to put one into effect. And if you remember correctly, there was an atmosphere of protest surrounding this fact. So both artists and publishers need to protest, to fight for even the most basic provisions that they required. Well, it's disputable. Yeah, we can have a dispute. For instance, to have an independent arbitrator enter the negotiations in case of a government agency, in case of a risk which could materialize, where negotiations get stuck with big tech companies. Do you believe this is an extreme demand? Okay, you will have more space to discuss that internally after this panel. Okay, I would like to separate the two of you. We only have 45 minutes. So we are now talking about a tool separately from the examples of its use. While digital media and democracy, this is not an abstract use of some tool. These are specific business models, specific companies that cause some actual damage in mental status of people. So we don't need to quarrel about basics. The way you approached this, Michał, you in a way diverted our attention. We are not here to discuss whether the hammer is a good one or a bad one. Let's quit. Let's not talk about AI. We are not talking about wood. We are not talking about air. Let's talk about pollution. Let's talk about cutting trees. Let's actually have a dispute about specific problems with specific entities, actors, and these actors are regulated. Now there's a new version of European regulation. I'm not a big fan of it, but it was done already. It's a controversial document, but there is a piece which says that big tech needs to introduce a policy of protecting copyrights. That's an opening for you. You don't have to discuss this issue with the Polish government. Well, you can, but there are better fora for that. I would like to regulate that at least on the level of the EU. We have Digital Services Act, Digital Marketing Act, or the AI Act, and they have specific mechanisms not to decide, whether air is good or bad, but how to use the technology, which is detrimental to the society. So let's go away from the subject of your discussion. Well, it's great that you brought us to specifics. And took us away from the disputable areas. But let's deal with specific examples, because regulations cannot define all the situations that can happen. And some users may try to use it for a purpose which is not a good one, even by politicians. And while you see politicians are the ones who say fake news are something bad. So that is the reason why we all try to use that tool. And now, how do we use a tool? It's up to us if we use the technology in the right way or in the wrong way. It's not a discussion on the hammer, whether it's a good or bad tool. Well, it's not up to me, it's up to the big companies. So maybe let's talk about algorithms. Well, let's go back to the first question. First, you said you had some ideas. So let's focus on the objective that we want to achieve. I believe all of us want technologies that we are using to strengthen democracy rather than to undermine democracy. So what do you say about that? Considering where we are in terms of technological and legal development, we are in Poland, we are in the EU, certain regulations are already in place, and there is certain disproportions in power. Given the circumstances, what should we do? Where to focus attention of the decision makers and other people so that technologies in a few years to come support democracy rather than undermine democracy? Kasia, let's start with you. Okay. Well, we work in different networks, also European networks, and 2 months ago we published a report, a manifesto, which describes what I'm saying here in more detail. So if you're interested, please read the report. And the report is titled Break Them Open. Them is the big tech. We would like the EU to use the tools that are available to, on the one hand, execute and enforce the law, which is already in force. For instance, to make sure that internet provides a lack of manipulation. For instance, people are not manipulated endlessly to watch things they don't want to watch. For instance, to avoid quick retweets or others. We should redesign the services in such way. Okay, I don't want to get into details. There is a lot of knowledge on how to do it. There is a concept, pro-social design, which tells us how to design algorithms and interface from the perspective of those big platforms to make sure we counteract what is happening. So overstimulation, digital addiction, overreacting to networks which make us polarized and radicalized. So let's enforce the law which is already in place. The second thing to improve the digital world is stratification. In other words, demonopolization. So dividing large corporations into smaller companies. And that is done in Brussels, also by the Trade Commission in the States. So, for instance, Instagram should be separated from Meta. It will be easier to regulate them. And we should stratify those corporations. And the way to do that is if you have a person that is addicted from a platform, or whether there's a medium or a publisher or entrepreneur, they could actually stay on a given platform, but they could use a different advertising technique. For instance, no tracking or ethical advertisements. And they could actually use algorithms that serve verified and high-quality content. This is difficult to be done, but we need to invest in such solutions. And the third element is investments. We want the European Commission to invest public money in such investments. Because the market, I still refer to the market as an unregulated market, because the regulations that are here are new. So it's a non-regulated market rather than an overly regulated one. And we would like the states that act together in the European Union to put the money on the table where their rhetorics are. So we want them to invest in quality journalism. We're talking about democracy, quality, in such a way that it enhances the social value of their services. And it doesn't have to be millions of euros. Today, applications are created that are absolutely useless. You don't need another application that tells you where to find meaning of your life. Do we have social services? Do we have services, for instance, who invests in quality journalism? The publishers who are exploited in this model. So there is a bunch of solutions. I will be happy to describe them in details if the time allows.
Bartosz, Hojka, what shall we do and what shall we focus on? Starting with media outlets. First of all, we have to be good at our job. We have to be a source of reliable information, checked information. It is more and more difficult, and the quality of media is deteriorating, like Katarzyna has mentioned. The economy of our business is as follows. Half of the money that was enough to do our work a few years ago now is transferred to California. So the deterioration of the quality is obvious. Speaking of the most important journalist work, which is most costly. So what can we do despite all the mistakes that are made by media outlets and our sins? We first have to improve our own work. Secondly, we are at a certain point when we can actually carry out awareness campaign about digital hygiene. As Michał has mentioned, we should be able to defend ourselves against fake news, against manipulation, against disinformation, and so that our kids are not addicted to social platforms. As part of this awareness-raising campaign, we shall promote education at school. And this hygiene, this media literacy, it is the basic competence we have to develop among our kids, starting with kindergarten. Adam Sawicki. Let me sum up. Standard Oil was divided into smaller companies. It was very painful, and then for 100 years, nothing like that happened. Not to such extent, and not in the US. These monopolies are still dominating the market, and then there were a lot of mergers. I spent 20 years of life in some of these huge companies. Speaking of the design of the product, it is difficult to do something. The level of basic rules about algorithms is one thing, but to interfere in the design of the product, it is almost impossible to do. I agree that education, media literacy, awareness raising is key. In Scandinavian schools, for example, pupils don't have access to notebooks at school because 10 years of research showed that you have to do a lot of things in handwriting, and it's about hygiene as well. Back to journalism. As Bartosz has mentioned, reliability and responsibility of a journalist is important. That the source of the article and the face of the author shall be known. So we can use algorithms for fact-checking to check the reliability of information and sources. If we can decide about verification of the information and we know which part was created by AI and what part of the article was written by a regular author, we have to do fact-checking. Can we improve the status of news nowadays? Because our audience are used to that good entertainment, good movies, they have to pay for that. Why not to do the same about news? Of course, diversity is important, but if I use 2-3 platforms, maybe the good habit should be that if I trust news on this channel, I pay for it. Because we are used to the situation that news are for free, because advertisements and commercials do the job of profit raising, and maybe we should change the habits. A lot of important information, and I fully agree. I actually cannot disagree with what you are saying. First, we have to be reliable as journalists. The source of information shall be reliable, but it's also to be done in such a way that it is attractive. Now, paid information, paid news, or free of charge news, internet piracy is a problem. It used to be a problem, but now it's not actually existent, not because we put these perpetrators behind bars, but we just taught people how to respect someone else's work. So information consumers have to respect the work of journalists, and journalists are excellent in Poland. Now, hygiene. This is #1 topic. A priority. We have to focus on it. And this is an absolute priority. We have to teach people starting from early age how to use digital market. For 3 years in Polish schools we do competence tests, and our Polish students are very bad in the use of social media. They only scroll information, but they are not able to verify the content, to verify the source of information, so they don't have knowledge about how to use digital tools. Last year, in school, we had the subject of entrepreneurship. But teachers are not entrepreneurs, so they are not apt to conduct such classes. We should better teach them fact-checking. We have to prepare every one of us to use this technology in a positive way. And to Katarzyna. We could have 2 panel discussions on this topic. But I always become cautious when I hear that a politician, public official should intervene and interfere in business models. For me, it's the song of the past, and I agree we shouldn't interfere too much. I do agree that we can spend money to stimulate, promote projects that educate, raise awareness, teach different communities how to find a place in this technological world. University people who worked on algorithms, yes, we shall support it. But why not limit apps? Maybe in Zakopane, in Poland, in Italy, in Germany, there is someone who needs such app. Of course, I believe that it can be financed, the startup can be funded, and other objectives can be funded. European Commission supports startups and national funding is used. Sometimes they develop something which is used in medicine. Not all the startups are creating entertainment apps. So I wouldn't generalize here. So when we discuss AI, democracy, algorithms, we shall not generalize. There are a lot of colors, as I mentioned, gray, pink, red, black. So there is no one-stop shop, no single solution. I would start with education, media literacy, awareness-raising campaigns, and investing. And I agree, we should invest in journalism so that journalists receive good remuneration. I will give you the floor soon, so not generalizing. Michał, shall we divide big tech platforms? Why? Why shall we interfere? These are not European companies. If these are European corporations, we can discuss it. This is the American big tech, and let Americans decide what to do with them. I don't want European Commission to interfere in the activities even non-American companies. There are some European companies with headquarters in Europe, Linicam, the Trade Committee, and the director of the competition office, they have similar ideas in the US. I believe we have to verify entertainment apps. If a client wants his app to measure, pulse, steps or whatever, he pays for it, and the market will verify it. Public money is needed where there is some social project. We are talking about democracy. We are not talking about competition. We are not discussing growth. Edna was devoted to it. Our conference is devoted to a different topic. And let us not regulate digital products. And you're all saying that you are afraid of interfering at the level of products. And there is the law that technological companies have to cope with the negative effects of their services. There is Article 34 of DESA that lists what are the side effects, interface of advertisement, and other things that are listed. And there is a book, Anxious Generation, in Polish, is going to be published in a month. Jonathan Haidt, who studies social media, and it is a scientific book. He mentions that there is a cause and effect consequence between the social media outlet and influence on mental health of people, on whether they suffer from solitude, alienation, depression, and other side effects of social media use. And it's not only a correlation. Everything starts when teenagers, this is the American research, they receive smartphone with Instagram, and they study girls. Why girls? Because they are victims of that. During their teenage years, they are focused more on relations, interpersonal relations. So they suffer most from social media use. During the last decade, a lot of people organized critically important organization, Integrity Institute, Institute for Human Technology. These are institutions built by insiders of these corporations, and they describe the services that they create addiction. So if we do not regulate the product on this level, we understand this is junk food, it has a lot of sugar, and we're doing nothing about it. So we give amphetamine to kids and we say, be careful with it. Okay, education is okay, media literacy is okay. But if kids received these products early on, many of us received these services as adults. But if these are teenagers, their brain does not build certain nexus. And this book is about the fact that it has grave negative effects, so we have to regulate it, like we regulate sugar or tobacco. We regulate tobacco business, and the same shall apply in terms of digital products. In general, Katarzyna, I agree with you. But these regulations are young still, as of now. And you have also mentioned that we don't see the effects of regulations. No, I'm saying that we shall implement these regulations. So let's implement them, and then we will assess whether they were effective and efficient. Let us not race in the race who creates more regulations. Okay, so Katarzyna and Michał will not agree probably with each other. Bartosz, if you had a magic wand, no one has a magic wand.
But we are on the level of the product, and I'm interested in the product design. But now, content is not always an integral part of the product. So in the tools that we are using, we try to have journalists use technological tools in order to make their research easier and work more efficient. But then content is verified, which is a completely different process. So there are different meanings to those two. And Kasia, I agree, algorithms deserve some regulation, especially those that are supported with behavioral research, which demonstrates addiction. When I look at the history, I can see that some addictive substances are still in trade. So I'm concerned that it will take time to regulate those issues. But we have to start from somewhere. And I'm just concerned that these regulations will not be enforceable in the near future. And the question is, what sanctions do we want to impose? It's only effective when there is sanctions to follow. So everything is ahead of us. But I would like to go back to awareness. Awareness and pressure, social pressure, can do a lot. And I deeply believe in civic society. If the Nordic countries were able to organize, and 10 years after iPads were introduced in schools, they were able to withdraw it all in 1 year, I think we can follow. Social pressure and awareness results in specific decisions. So it's not like with technology, we do things quickly and then we test and improve everything. In case of regulations, we should have a similar approach. So if we wait for the results for a long time, this will not get us anywhere, because this will keep us testing old things. So I believe pace is important. We are still in a reactive rather than proactive approach. So when new things are creative, it's important to pay attention to those. Give me a second. I would like to open the discussion to the public for the last 12 minutes. If there is a microphone on the floor, get it ready, and you get your questions ready. And just a quick comment from Mr. Hojka. Well, we are talking about young generations, and let's not generalize. Well, you see, Poland wants to introduce programming in kindergartens. Well, we do not have a magic wand, and thank you, Kasia, for bringing those comparisons to a variety of addictive products that you mentioned. And that was actually also used by the in the United States, where they compared social platforms to contemporary nicotine, and because the consequences are quite similar. And I believe we are talking about a heavier substance for sure, given the scale of the product and its consequences. I do remember from early times, my early years, when you were able to smoke in a bank, on a plane, or during a TV debate. It took us a couple of decades to make the situation true, to introduce all the bans and markings and so on. But we did that. We succeeded. And the reality has been fundamentally changed. I believe the same amount of work is needed. In this case, this will not be a touch of a magic wand. It will take more. But going back to regulations, I would like the media to have equal conditions and fair competition with big techs, and then we'll be able to fulfill our roles, which is, I believe, fundamental for the development of democracy. In Hungary, as you probably are aware of, there is no independent media and there is no democracy. So in order for us to survive in a good condition and to have high-quality journalism, to have revision, we need to have conditions for fair competition. Okay, now we have 12 minutes for discussion. So if there is any brave people who would like to ask their questions, you're welcome to. Katarzyna Maliszewska here. I have a question to Katarzyna. I fully agree with what you said, but I have a concern, let's be honest, that the Silicon Valley guys, they did not set up those big tech companies to be saviors of the world, but to make big dough, big money. So you mentioned demonopolization and the stratification of those companies. Now, given the fact that everything that social media platforms are doing, the algorithms, clickbaits, convincing their users to quickly like and share things, everything is to increase the number of clicks, to have bigger scopes and more users. And what you're proposing to change the design of the product is a contradictory idea. So what are the ideas, if there are any, to combine those two tasks, which are not coherent? You know, on the one hand, the big ones want to make big money, and on the other hand, in a way, we want them to discourage their own users to use their product or to use it more cautiously or more reasonably, with more attention to what they are reposting and what they are sharing with their colleagues. friends. Thank you. You presented the business model in a perfect way, and you showed the solution as well. The only solution is regulation. We don't expect the big bosses to self-tax or to do something on their own. They have not done that for years, even though this concept has been presented already a couple of years ago. So some critical books were published and so on. So we need to force them to do that. And luckily, in Europe, we have the regulation, and it's an interesting moment in my career. I've been in this business for 15 years. For the first 7 years, I heard Americans say we are a stupid nation because we have the GDPR and some other solutions. And now we have Americans come to Brussels and say, hey, you are the only hope. How have you managed to introduce the standards? And how can we copy it from you? So you see, the only solution is an obligation, and it pertains to environmental protection, addictive substances, junk food, and so on. These are the areas where a state or higher organization needs to impose certain solutions, like a digital tax. It can be a tax as well. Actually, it would be good for those companies to pay higher taxes because we would have more money to enforce that law. But fines and sanctions are huge. And the European Commission says it's quite interesting that they are sending this formula. They open interrogations. They send questions. And actually, big techs are now frightened. They are scared. And so the sanctions are quite significant, even including suspension of operations on the European market. I believe TikTok was suspended with one specific service in Spain. So it actually did happen. And this is about time to say, enough. We do not let you make this aggressive money. They will continue to do their business, but we want them to provide a service which is less addictive, less toxic, and pro-consumer service. So if I decide that I only want to click sweet cats on Monday until 4 and click news on Tuesday, I'm still a consumer. But I'm feeling better, I'm less addicted, and I receive high-quality news. And they will still make money on me, but they will not make 1 billion, they will make some millions. So we just need to enforce it legally. Any more questions? No questions. Or comments. Comments are welcome. Where are you in this dispute? Maciej Kosowski. I represent digital publishers. I have a question. 2 hours ago, during one of important panels about the sources of economic growth, one expert, a PhD holder, Balcerowicz, who said that one of the factors that are necessary to grow is protection from monopoly in specific sectors. So, like you said before, Michał, the European regulators should not touch American companies. No, it's not about that. It's not about requesting division. So how do we demonopolize the market? Just as Kasia told you. So we already have the regulation, but we need to enforce it. The European Commission has already affected that, but ideologically, I'm against, for let's say, Warsaw government deciding about foreign companies, whether they should be X company or XY company. This is not our role. If American government wants to introduce a compulsory split, okay, let them do that. But Americans should enforce their laws, and Americans should do that with their own law. And I have some sad news for all of you. Entrepreneurs do their businesses to make money. Of course, it's about money, but let's not turn it into ideological discussion about money or money making. That's the nature of both Agora and Warner that you represent. This is what the corporations are made for. And the key to success is that we are very happy people in Europe, and that we are all prepared in terms of knowledge and tools to prepare perfect content and with everybody happy with their profit. This is not the case, and this will never be the case. No regulators will enforce that. There will always be a group on the market that will be more or less happy with their market position. And I agree with Kasia. Regulations are to be enforced, and let's do that. But let's follow the letter of law, the rule of law. Let's not go beyond what it says. Let's wait for the effects. For now, I don't know of any sanctions, any fines which were actually enforced, which does not mean that all the companies are fully legally operational. Let's wait for the effects of those regulations. Let's assess them. Let's see if the effects are what we expected, and only then will we be able to responsibly say or evaluate this regulation. But today, talking about that certain regulations being insufficient, well, let's say it's abusive. Michał, I will treat what you said as a closing voice, and I would like all the other speakers to make a summary, and I will skip the summary myself. Well, about regulations, we know what is lacking. Certain things need to be done, and that is why Ursula von der Leyen said that we are waiting for one more session. It's the Digital Fairness Act. It's a new law which refers or discusses digital consumers. So now we have to go beyond. We have to go to the to the other side of this mental barricade. And the Commission decided that we are so addicted, so overdosed with this digital market that we are no longer thinking rationally. So the Union will try to defend us from this malfunctioning design, which makes me happy. Now, the regulations that are already enforced, there is a couple of investigations, and 4 of them refer to what we are talking about, and fines will follow. And it's about algorithms that are designed in such a way that they become addictive and they have negative social effects. So we already have pending investigations against those 4 big platforms. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Something changed, sentiments are changing, but I think it's the best moment, the best time to organize or launch this initiative of introducing digital education, digital hygiene at schools. And I would like to refer to what Michał expressed. Nobody expects big tech to become social companies, and the same refers to to media, to private media in Poland. We just want to have fair conditions to act on the Polish market. We don't want content to be stolen from us, because we are the ones who create, who hire journalists. From our perspective, we strongly support those regulations that level the play field, that consumers are protective, that awareness is growing. We are a storytelling company, as our boss says. So we are an enterprise entertainment company, and we want to select the right content. Now, journalism has a special role to play, and we also offer a news channel and VOD, two streaming channels. So we do a lot of editorial stuff. So we are very close to the journalist sector. I believe we will be creating recommendations, but we don't want, we just want to care about our viewers. We do not want to...
Wydaje mi się, że osaczenie, a zaopiekowanie i pomoc to są dwie różne rzeczy. I myślę, że to jest takie filozoficzne podejście, w które ja mocno wierzę, a jeszcze jakby pod adwocem trochę tego, co ty mówisz, Bartku, absolutnie tutaj kampania, myślę, uświadamiająca.
And I believe awareness campaigns are necessary, educational campaigns are necessary, and the fact is that we do not have specialists in this field. Well, we need to finish here. I would like to express my thanks to our speakers. You showed great discipline, and let's have this discipline in the digital world.
Jedzą kanapki z kawiorem.
Nadzwyczajna kasa.
Obrażanie dziennikarzy telewizji polskiej.
Chodzi o działania polityczne.
Gotowanie ofiar dla pedofilów.
Für Deutschland.
TVP Info. Włącz się na nowo.
Radość, nadzieja, życie, wyzwanie, pasja, pamięć, zaufanie, pokój, jedność. Słowa tworzą świat. Polskie Radio. Źródło wiarygodnych informacji.
Plany biznesowe powstają z marzeń. Dlatego nie ma dwóch takich samych firm. Jedni chcą działać na całym świecie. Innym cały świat mieści się w dłoni. Sukces biznesu to nie tylko jego wielkość, ale też szczęście, jakie przynosi ludziom. PKO Bank Polski.
Uwielbiam szycie w sieci. Wczoraj podszyłem się pod wnuczka, wieczorem uszyłem intrygę na apce randkowej, a dziś planuję grubymi nićmi szyte oszustwo z promocją. Tak się szyje.
Na oszustów są sposoby. Zapoznaj się z poradami ekspertów na niedajsiepodszyć.pl.
It's not always easy to recognize. It may look like this, or like this. It may be a burden, but it is a responsibility that we embrace nonetheless. But if it means this for one person and this for someone else, maybe it ultimately means being there for one another. It isn't handed to us, but we know where to find it. And how it feels, how it tastes, and what it sounds like when we finally have it. It means different things to different people, but for many, it means everything. And if we all fight for it, it will eventually bring us together.
Ihre Ausreise
Polskie Radio.
Jedynka.
Rodzina spółek Pelion to 12 tysięcy osób pracujących w ponad 300 spółkach w Polsce, Szwecji, Wielkiej Brytanii i na Litwie. Jesteśmy liderem w branży ochrony zdrowia. Od 1990 roku dbamy o długość i jakość życia. Pracować z nami możesz w jednym z 7 obszarów.
Dziś Nowy Jork, jutro Londyn. Za chwilę Paryż, Warszawa, Berlin. Na całym świecie kultura pulsuje rytmem. Wystarczy tylko włączyć dwójkę. Dwójka, Polskie Radio. Jesteś na miejscu.
Zapraszamy do Trójki. Od nowa.
Trójka. Program Trzeci Polskiego Radia.
Czy wytrzymasz klockowe tortury ze stoickim spokojem? Czy w twardych negocjacjach zachowasz zimną krew? Czy poddasz się dobrowolnej eksmisji ze swojego łóżka? Brawo! Test na obecność serca zaliczony. To znaczy, że ty też możesz być rodzicem zastępczym. Dowiedz się jak na testserca.pl.